All right. I have Miss Shelley Rawson here on Skype. That way she can listen in on my presentation. She was the site manager at Junior Achievement. Hello, my name is Timothy Melanson Jr. I go by Ty. This is my LHRD 4723 Service Learning Project presentation. I chose Junior Achievement Permian Basin to do my volunteer hours through. Junior Achievement's purpose is to inspire and prepare young people to succeed in the global economy. I chose this organization due to their dedication to administering a curriculum that contains valuable skills that students do not typically get in the classroom that translate to the real world. With the help of average people, they're changing this world one classroom at a time. Just forfeiting a few hours of our schedules, we too can adjust the trajectory of many adolescents. Meet Miss Marcella Macias. How is she relevant to LHRD 4723? Well, Miss Macias is a servant leader. To the textbook definition by Peter Northouse, a great servant leader. On several occasions, I would see her take time out of her busy schedule to help students when they were deciding what courses they'd be taking the following semester. She would make sure that these students were selecting the classes that would give them the best opportunity to get placed well in high school. Even though she was technically on a break, on her own time, she decided to put the needs of others above her own. By doing this, she ensured these students' growth, which led to higher organizational performance, in turn impacting society by building better minds. Adaptive leadership in action. Adaptive leadership was often demonstrated by this woman. She was always faced with complex problems. And one example is how she would deal with students whose second language was English. In a technical way, she would overcome this by installing an app on their phone so they could scan a document, it would translate it to English, and then they could follow along in class. An adaptive way that she came over this is that she seated students that were proficient in English next to students that were not so skilled in English, almost acting like an ad hoc translator. By doing this, she empowered those students to accomplish their work. If Peter Northouse doesn't think that's an adaptive leader, I don't know what is. Contribution to society. Children today are not given the basic skills to be competitive in the workplace. When we look at students today, they just don't have what it takes to differentiate themselves. Through delivery of standardized courses that assess strengths and weaknesses, much like we did in our class. We teach them basic skills of resume writing, go over soft skills such as how to interview. These can all help these kids later on down in life. Additionally, we cover simple topics that are oftentimes left out off of modern curriculum and are rarely covered in the home. Things such as the principles of budgeting, how taxes are levied against us, the importance of credit, and how insurance works. A world without JA looks a whole lot like a world with JA. A place where the majority of kids do not have any skills that will allow them to differentiate themselves from all the other kids when it comes time to choose a career. This organization at the moment cannot touch every student on the planet, but through the intense desire to change the world with dedicated staff such as Ms. Shelley Rawson, great teachers like Ms. Macias, and average Joes like myself, we may be able to do it. Junior Achievement is one of the few nonprofits that uses independent third-party evaluators to gauge their impact. You can find more on this at juniораchievement.org and see where they're making impacts all over the country. What I learned about myself through an assessment in Chapter 2, I learned my strengths are self-confidence, determination, trustworthiness, But what I learned most about my strengths is that life is not all about strengths. Oftentimes, we learn more from our weaknesses. This same assessment identified my weaknesses were in conscientiousness, sensitivity, and empathy. I also learned that I can change lives. By changing those lives, I learned that I too can be sensitive. I'm going to show you a picture where we were playing a game on budgeting, where every student was issued their own salary with an occupation. With this salary, they had to do simple things of a budgeting exercise like transportation cost, housing allowance, money for groceries, entertainment. This girl looks up at me, she says, I want the same groceries that this other girl gets. I said, well, you see, with the house that you chose, there's not enough money left over for you to be able to buy as many groceries as you want. You can have enough to eat, but you can't have the nicest of the groceries. She said, well, what kind of salary does she make? I said, well, you see, you drew the salary of a store clerk while she drew the salary of a pharmacist. What if I want to be a pharmacist? I said, well, it's simple. You do good in school now, you do good in school in high school, you do well in college, and then after college, you're going to have to go. She said, wait, you have to go to school after college to be a pharmacist? I said, yeah, of course. After you get an undergraduate degree, you're going to have to go to pharmacy school. She said, and if I go to pharmacy school and I perform well all the way along, I too can make that kind of a salary? I said, well, of course. Anybody can do it if they decide they want to. At that very moment, I saw a light in her eyes when she made the correlation between education and income. If you look at this smile strapped straight across my face, you see that I too learned something. I can be sensitive. My three main takeaways: I care more than I thought I did. According to this questionnaire in chapter 2, I'm not supposed to be sensitive or empathetic. But this experience made me feel responsible to help these kids choose their path to a great career. Second takeaway is I gained a whole new sense of self-worth. While I was doing a journal on civic responsibility, I realized that working with these young, brilliant minds and their desire to learn, if someone's willing to teach them, gives me a whole new perspective on the future of our country. Lastly, not everyone starts at the same point, but as we learned with path goal theory, a clearly defined path can help us achieve our goals. A little bit goes a long way, and a little nudge early in life in the right direction can make a drastic difference in the determination when one lands up at the end of their life. Thank you for joining for my presentation. I just have one more slide to show you. My most proud day was when I had one of the students hang an LSU pennant in the classroom. I got to teach my last couple days in class under this pennant. Thanks. I appreciate you joining me, Shelley.